Morning, students. Today we will study the third lesson in our supplementary book, Footprints Without Feet. The name of the chapter is The Midnight Visitor. Now, this is a story about a secret agent by the name of Osable, and a young and impressionable writer who is also a romantic person has come to meet Osable because he is a writer and he wants to write a story about secret agents. So he comes to meet him over there. And what happens in the story, this is what we are going to study today. Osable did not fit any description of a secret agent Fowler had ever read. Following him down the musty corridor of a gloomy French hotel where Osable had a room, Fowler felt let down. It was a small room on the sixth and top floor and scarcely a setting for a romantic adventure. Right in the beginning itself, we come to know that according to Fowler, he has read many books about secret agents, and he says Osable did not fit any description of a secret agent, and he was following him down the musty corridor of a gloomy French hotel where Osable had a room on the sixth and top floor. Fowler felt let down, disappointed. Why? Because he had some totally different vision of a secret agent, what he had read in books, whereas this fellow was totally different, opposite of what he had read in the books. So he felt let down. Plus the hotel is also very sad looking hotel, and he has a room on the top floor. He says it is hardly a setting for a romantic adventure. Normally secret agents live in very lavish hotels, and they are all very beautiful settings for a romantic adventure, whereas this was totally different. Osable was, for one thing, fat, very fat, and then there was his accent. Though he spoke French and German passably, he had never altogether lost the American accent he had brought to Paris from Boston 20 years ago. Now, why does Osable does not fit in the description of a secret agent? This is what he says. That Osable was fat. In fact, he was very fat. So fat that he had never ever read anywhere about a secret agent being fat. In fact, secret agents are glorified on movie screens, even on TV screens. Whenever we see them, a movie is made on them. They are all these very smart, dashing, and handsome looking young men with very sculpted bodies and all those things. As you have seen, James Bond movies, he is a secret agent, and James Bond is very smart and very dashing and handsome looking person, and he also has very good physique. Osable was totally opposite. He was very fat, and then the way he spoke, he is not from Europe. He is living in Paris, but he spoke French and German passably. Passably means could be understood, but not like an expert. And he had still not lost altogether his Boston accent. He is from America. Boston is in America. And Americans, the way they speak English is different from the way either Britishers or Indians or Australians speak English. It is totally different from them. But he had still not lost that American accent of English, which he had brought from Boston to Paris 20 years ago. It's been now 20 long years, but still his English has not changed. It is that same American accent. Now Osable is talking with Fowler. What does he say? He says, "You are disappointed. You were told that I was a secret agent, a spy dealing in espionage and danger. You wish to meet me because you are a writer, young, romantic. You envisioned mysterious figures in the night, the crack of pistols, drugs in the wine. Instead, you have spent a dull evening in a French music hall with a sloppy fat man, who, instead of having messages slipped into his hand by dark-eyed beauties, gets only a prosaic telephone call, making an appointment in his room. You have been bored." The fat man chuckled to himself as he unlocked the door of his room and stood aside to let his frustrated guest enter. Now, this is what happened. Osable straight away is talking while they were walking in the corridor of the hotel. He's talking with Fowler. He says, I know you are disappointed. Why? Because you were told that I was a secret agent. I was a spy dealing with espionage and danger. Espionage means wanting to know the secrets of other country and getting those secrets out to your country. That is espionage. International level spying. He says, you had heard about it and the dangers about it. So you wish to meet me because you are young, you are a writer, you are a romantic. So you must have envisioned figures in the night, cracking of pistols, drugs being put in wine, and all these things. You must have got those visions. But you are disappointed. Why? Because nothing like that happened. In fact, you have spent a very dull evening, he says, in a French music hall with a sloppy fat man who, instead of having messages slipped into his hand by dark-eyed beauties, gets only an ordinary telephone call, making an appointment in his room. So you have been bored. It is but natural. Why? Because what you were thinking about a secret agent, nothing like that happened. It was just a dull evening spent by you with me, where I just got a telephone call, making an appointment in my room, nothing else. So you have been bored. And the fat man chuckled. Chuckled is to laugh inwardly to himself as he opened the door of his room and let his guest enter first, because he thought he is frustrated, let him go inside first. Then again Osable told him, you are disillusioned, but take cheer, my young friend. Presently you will see a paper, a quite important paper, for which several men and women have risked their lives, come to me. Some day soon that paper may well affect the course of history. In that thought is drama, is there not? Osable says, you are disillusioned. Disillusioned means misguided. But don't worry. Cheer up, he says. My young friend, presently, he says, you will see a paper which is quite important, for which lots of men and women have risked their lives. That piece of paper is going to come to me today. Someday soon, that paper might affect the course of history. Means this paper will perhaps change history. That paper today I am going to get. Is that thought not dramatic? This is what Osable is telling to Fowler. As he spoke, Osable closed the door behind him. Then he switched on the light, and as the light came on, Fowler had his first authentic thrill of the day. For halfway across the room, a small automatic pistol in his hand, stood a man. Osable blinked a few times. Max, he wheezed, you gave me quite a start. I thought you were in Berlin. What are you doing here in my room? Now, as Osable was speaking about that piece of paper, he closed the door behind him and switched on the light. As soon as the lights came on, Fowler, the young writer, had the first authentic thrill of the day. He has been with him throughout the day. Nothing has happened. It has been just an ordinary, monotonous day. And now, when they entered the room, he got the first authentic thrill. What was that thrill? Halfway across the room, a man is standing with an automatic pistol in his hand. Osable, looking at him, blinked a few times, and then he says, Max, you gave me quite a start. Means you surprised me. I thought, he says, you were in Berlin. What are you doing here in my room? Max was slender, a little less than tall, with features that suggested slightly the crafty, pointed countenance of a fox. There was about him, aside from the gun, nothing especially menacing. The report, he murmured, the report that is being brought to you tonight concerning some new missiles, I thought I would take it from you. It will be safer in my hands than in yours. Now Max was already inside the room when Osable and Fowler came. So Osable was a bit surprised. Now Max was very thin fellow, a little less than tall. You can't call him too tall. A little less, with features that suggested slightly the crafty. Crafty means his features suggested that he was a little bit cunning man. Pointed the countenance of a fox. Countenance is face. His face looked like a fox, and we all know foxes are very cunning. That there was about him, aside from the gun, nothing menacing. Because he had a gun in his hand, he looked dangerous. Otherwise, if he removed the gun from his hand, there was nothing which showed that this agent Max looks menacing, means dangerous. If you remove the gun from his hand, the gun was the only dangerous thing that he held in his hand. So when he asked possible to Max, why are you here? I thought you were in Berlin. He says, I have come for the report. The report is being brought to you tonight regarding the missiles. I thought I will take it from you because it will be safer in my hand than in yours. Now this is the piece of paper which Osable is talking, which perhaps might change the course of history. And this Max says to be the report. He also knows it is coming to Osable that night, so he has come to get that piece of paper. Osable moved to an armchair and sat down heavily. I am going to raise the devil with the management this time, and you can bet on it, he said grimly. This is the second time in a month that somebody has got into my room through that nuisance of a balcony. Fowler's eyes went to the single window of the room. It was an ordinary window, agent against which now the night was pressing blackly. Osable, he just went and sat down on the chair. He's angry. What does he say? I'm going to raise the devil with the management this time, and you can bet on it. I'm going to raise the devil means I'm going to complain to the management. And he is telling Max, they both perhaps work for the same company. He's telling that I will tell the management. This time I'm going to complain. This is the second time, he says, in the month that somebody has come into my room through that nuisance of a balcony. He is going to complain about the room also, that what kind of rooms you have given. Anybody can enter into my room that easily. Fowler's eyes went to the single window of the room. Now this is just an ordinary window against which now the night was pressing blackly, means it was dark night, and it was just a single window of the room. Balcony? Max said with rising inflection. No, a passkey. I did not know about the balcony. It might have saved me some trouble had I known. Max is surprised. He says, what balcony? I came because I had another key with me. So I entered your room. But if I had known that there is a balcony in your room, it would have saved me the trouble of making a key for your room and coming here. I could have just climbed in the balcony and entered your room. It's not my balcony, Osable said with extreme irritation. It belongs to the next apartment. He glanced explanatorily at Fowler. You see, he said, this room used to be part of a large unit, and the next room through that door there used to be the living room. It had the balcony, which extends under my window now. You can get onto it from the empty room 2 doors down, and somebody did last month. The management promised to block it off, but they haven't. Osable is angry, extreme irritation, extremely angry. He says it is not my balcony, it belongs to the next apartment. And now he is looking at Fowler, explaining something. You see, he said, this room which we are in, it used to be a part of a large unit, and the next room through the door there used to be the living room. That living room, it had a balcony which extends under my window now. So you can get onto it from the empty room 2 doors down, and somebody did last month. And I had told to the management, but they never did anything. They had promised me to block that thing off so that nobody can enter from somebody else's balcony into my room, but the management has not done anything. That is why he says in the beginning of the paragraph of this page that I will raise the devil with the management, means I will complain to the management that they have done nothing to block this balcony off. Max glanced at Fowler, who was standing stiffly not far from Osable and waved the gun with a commanding gesture. Please sit down, he said. We have a wait of half an hour, I think. 31 minutes, Osable said moodily. The appointment was for 12:30. I wish I knew how you learnt about the report, Max. Now Max looked at Fowler, who was standing stiffly, held with a gun held in his hand, not far from Osable, and he was waving the gun with a commanding gesture. Please sit down, he said. We have to wait for, I think, half an hour. This is what Max is telling. Osable said to him, not very much concerned about that gun which he is holding in his hand. He says, 31 minutes. The appointment was for 12:30. And then he says, I wish I knew how you learnt about the report, Max. Now he's asking Max, I wish I knew how you came to know about that report. The little spy smiled evilly. And we wish we knew how your people got the report. But no harm has been done. I will get it back tonight. What is that? Who is at the door? Fowler jumped at the sudden knocking at the door. Osable just smiled. That will be the police, he said. I thought that such an important paper as the one we are waiting for should have a little extra protection. I told them to check on me to make sure everything was all right. Max bit his lip nervously. The knocking was repeated. Now Max is smiling evilly. He says, we wish we knew how your people got the report. When he was asked, no, how you learnt about the report. He's telling, we wish we knew how you got that report. But no harm has been done. I will get the report back tonight. What is that? Who is at the door? Some knocking is heard at the door. And Fowler suddenly jumped up at the sudden knocking. Osable just smiled. Sitting in the chair, he said, that will be the police. I thought that because this paper is such an important document as the one we are waiting for, so it should have a little bit of extra protection also. So I had told the police to check on me to make sure that everything was alright. Now Max is in trouble. He is biting his lips nervously. Why? Because the knocking is being repeated. What will you do now, Max? Osable asked. Oh, if I do not answer the door, they will enter anyway. The door is unlocked and they will not hesitate to shoot. Max's face was black with anger. As he backed swiftly towards the window, he swung a leg over the sill. Send them away, he warned. I will wait on the balcony. Send them away or I will shoot and take my chances. The knocking on the door became louder and a voice was raised. Mr. Osable, Mr. Osable. Osable is asking to Max, what are you going to do now? If I don't answer the door, they will enter anyway. Likewise also the door is unlocked. They will not hesitate to shoot you. Max's face was becoming black with anger and he was backing away quickly towards the window and he swung one leg over the windowsill. Send them away. He is warning Osable. He says, I will wait on the balcony. Send them away or I will shoot and take my chances. And the knocking was becoming louder on the door. Mr. Osable, Mr. Osable. They are shouting from outside the door. Keeping his body twisted so that his gun still covered the fat man and his guest, the man at the window grasped the frame with his free hand to support himself. Then he swung his other leg up and over the window sill. Now he had kept his body twisted so that the gun, it still covered the fat man and his guest. The man at the window, that is Max, he had grasped the window frame with his free hand to support himself. Then he swung his other leg up and over the windowsill. Now he is ready to jump down in the balcony. The door knob turned. Swiftly, Max pushed with his left hand to free himself from the sill and dropped to the balcony. and then as he dropped, he screamed once shrilly. As soon as the doorknob turned, Max quickly pushed with his left hand to free himself from the sill, and he dropped down onto the balcony. And as he dropped, he screamed loudly. Shrilly means he screamed very loudly when he jumped down on the balcony. The door opened and a waiter stood there with a tray, a bottle, and two glasses. Here is the drink you ordered for when you returned, he said, and set the tray on the table, deftly uncorked the bottle, and left the room. Now, when the door had opened, in came the waiter with a tray, a bottle, and two glasses. And he says, here is the drink you ordered for when you returned, he said, and he set the tray on the table, quickly uncorking the bottle, and left the room. White-faced Fowler stared at him, but he stammered, the police? Fowler is surprised. He has no idea. This was his first thrill of the full day, that also at night, 12 o'clock. And he was thinking that the door is being knocked continuously, and Osable had said it is the police. So he said, but he is stammering, he can't speak also. He says, but the police, his face has turned white. There was no police, Osable sighed, only Henry, whom I was expecting. But won't that man out on the balcony? Fowler began. No, said Osable, he won't return. You see, my young friend, there is no balcony. This is what this secret agent is. Very smart. Though he is very fat, he doesn't fit the description of a secret agent which we have seen on movie screens. He just uses his smartness. He told Fowler there was no police. It was only Henry, whom I was expecting. But then Fowler says, but that man is on the balcony, he is waiting for us with a gun. Any moment, he told, I will shoot. Osable said, no, he won't return. And then he says, you see, my young friend, there is no balcony. Means, when the doorknob turned and when Max jumped, he made a loud shout. What was that loud shout? He had jumped from the 6th floor of the building down to the ground. He was thinking that he had jumped on the balcony, but this is what was the real thing. When Osable told him that there was no balcony, in fact, he had just made up a story of a balcony being right down his window. But practically there was no balcony. He had fooled Max into believing that there was a balcony and made up the story of that police which he was expecting, so Max would run away. And this is how he outwitted Max and fooled him to go away before those people came with that important piece of paper. So this is how secret agents are. They might not look smart in real life, they might not look dashing or handsome, but they use their brains perhaps better than others, and how they react in certain situations, this is what makes them secret agents. That is their quick thinking. And Osable, with his quick thinking, was able to outwit the other secret agent who had come there with a gun in his hand to get the document. But Osable easily outwitted him with his smartness.